Raise your hand if you love Invicta. Which team are you on? So ever since I was little, I remember my dad with his Casio calculator watch, and I was so fascinated by that thing. He even let me borrow it one time, and I took it to school. And I thought I was so cool, and everyone was like, oh my God, you can do your math homework on this thing. Welcome back, my little subscribers. So in this video, I want to present to you an Invicta watch. And I know there's a lot of fans of Invicta, there's haters of Invicta. They're all over the place, but to me, Invicta has a special place because when I started trying to get a watch for myself, Invicta was the first option, the first affordable option to get a decent looking watch made of some nice steel, automatic, with all the pros you want in a watch at an affordable price. And so after a long time, I actually ended up without Invictas in my collection for some reason. Some I gave to my brother, others were just sold. And so I finally added one to the collection, very affordable, like I said. And this one's really cool. It's one that I didn't know they made, and I just found out about it. But you can still find it in some places, so keep an eye out for it because it is kind of rare. So if you are familiar with the Daytona and Paul Newman, you'll know that I'm talking about a Rolex Daytona, which is a very famous watch created for keeping timing while in a racing vehicle for the Daytona races. And so these are chronograph watches, and I think they go back to the 60s, maybe before that. I can double check that. But the cool thing about the Paul Newman is that it became a symbol, a very iconic watch with its pattern of, they call it the Panda, where it will be white with black subdials, or the reverse Panda, black with white subdials. And it has a tachymeter measure to you can measure time and speed. So you would basically start the chronograph at the beginning of a mile and stop it when you finish that mile, and the chronograph tachymeter scale would indicate how fast you went in that mile. And so why am I bringing this up? It's because the Paul Newman is such a famous watch, and obviously it's a Rolex. It's almost impossible to get because they're expensive, they're rare, they're vintage, and the new versions that exist now don't look like the classic ones, obviously. The design has changed a lot. And so there's a way for all of us to enjoy that awesome design without having to spend over $200,000 or more on a vintage model. And that's where this Invicta comes in. Now, I found this on eBay. I'm sure you can probably find it at another store, but if you're familiar with the Pro Diver, it's the same case, which is very similar on Daytonas. They look very similar cases to the Submariner cases and things like that. This is a quartz, so keep that in mind. Some of you may want to stay away from quartz because you prefer automatic or you don't care. In my case, I do and I don't care sometimes. It just depends on the design. This is unique enough to me that I don't really care if it's a quartz. There's nothing wrong with quartz, and they're actually a lot more accurate than a lot of automatic movements out there, unless you're spending several $1,000s. So this design is basically a Paul Newman design, reverse Panda, and with a modern touch. And by modern touch, I mean the case is basically modern because it's made by Invicta now, and along with the bracelet design, but it still resembles and gives homage to that old-fashioned vintage design that is so loved by so many. And so I'll show you some pictures. I have some video samples. There we go. It likes my face. So I'll show you more images of this watch, but just really quick, I'll give you some quick specs. And through the images, you can see the resemblance with the Daytona Paul Newman. So it is a stainless steel watch, 316L. It does not have sapphire crystal, it's mineral crystal. It has a Japan Miyota movement. It's a chronograph. So this isn't a typical chronograph. So you usually have what you would think the second hand as being the main chronograph timekeeper. But in this case, that was kept to the subdial at the 6 o'clock position. That's where when you activate the chronograph, that's what's gonna tick and start timing, basically a stopwatch. The subdial at 9 o'clock is gonna keep track of the minutes that are going by. And the subdial at 3 o'clock is keeping 24-hour time. So basically day or night indicator. For some people, it's like whatever, it's kind of a waste of a dial for a chronograph, but it is what it is. It's a cheap sub $100 chronograph design, and that's what we got. And then some may or may not like this, but it's kind of difficult to just remove in modern watches. It has a date window, which is boxed. That's nice. And it's between 4 and 5 o'clock. So it's not a bad looking watch. I do wish the minute track on the outer dial was a little bit darker red and not as bright. I think the toned down red, like a burgundy, would have made this a lot more vintage. This bright red isn't bad, but it does make it look like what it is, sub 100. The bezel, I could be wrong, but I don't think this is ceramic. But it may be. It's kind of difficult to tell because in the specs, even on the website, they don't really tell you. I believe it's also steel or it's aluminum, but it doesn't rotate because it's tachymeter, units per hour. You can measure up to 60 to 400 miles an hour. But yeah, that's basically the dial setup. The hour and minute marker, the hour and minute hands are well designed. I think they could have been a little thicker and the seconds hand could have been a little better designed, but it's okay. I mean, it's an homage to a vintage design. It is what it is. Overall, I think the polishing is decent. The bracelet, let's move on to that. Bracelet's well made. It's what you would expect from any pro diver. If you had one before, it's basically the same exact bracelet with the same buckle, with the micro adjust and the secure system. Closes pretty securely. I haven't had issues with it. Very easy to adjust. It's a pin. We've got pins instead of screws. But Invicta's never done screws that I know of. Overall, a great looking watch and a nice nod to history. Okay, some cool features I want to point out is, even though it is a sub $100 watch, this is something that you can wear every day. Knock it against furniture or a door where, you know, when you're using it every day, you're gonna hit it against things. You're gonna hit it on the desk. You could try not to and scratch it. But this is a sturdy watch, I would say. It can take a beating. Solid case. You see the thickness. I think this is around 13 to 14 millimeters. It's pretty thick. Not too thick. I think the design, since it is imitating that Daytona design, the case does hug on the wrist and stays pretty flat. There's no display case back because it's not automatic, so it is pretty flat on the back. Nothing special on the case back. This is 200 meters water resistant, which is awesome because Daytonas are usually, I don't think any Daytona is that water resistant. They're usually 100 meters, which of course is enough for anyone, any normal person that's not going into deep ocean. But 200 meters, it's more about the indicator that it is a resilient watch. It will last you. And because of that 200 meters, it has a spin crown, a locking mechanism. You have to unscrew the crown to change the times, and then you have to screw it back in to ensure that seal. And just as the crown has that, so do the pushers. You have to unscrew each pusher before you can even press the button to use the stopwatch feature, as well as at the same time if you wanted to measure speed. If you're gonna go in water, you just gotta make sure those are screwed in all the way. So this is made under Invicta's Speedway line. And this is basically their Daytona Homage line. And if you go on Joma Shop or eBay or Amazon, you'll see tons of variations, tons of color variations. I would prefer to stay in the 40mm diameter because it just fits more wrists. But if you want a larger one, I'm pretty sure it's out there. And they're known for making large watches. But like I said, overall, it's a great watch, sub 100. Even if you didn't get, or even if you didn't find this particular design, if you search Invicta Speedway, you'll see tons of colors. There's a Speedway homage to the Daytona under $100 for everyone out there because of all the colors. And maybe later, I think I'll try to get a different color so you can see the difference. The reason I got this one, I could have got any other color, was just because the setup of the dial and the bezel just resemble that Paul Newman design, which I appreciate. Well, thank you for watching. This was just a quick impression on this watch. Very affordable, great design. It's hard not to like it. And if you're a person who doesn't want to spend a lot on a watch, it still have something really good looking that can, you know, be thrown, probably don't throw it. You know, as you're walking around doing things every day or take a quick swim, this will handle. It won't disappoint. Okay, there is one thing I want to point out. Everyone should know, and if you don't know, they always engrave their company name on the side. And love it or hate it, it's there. It's part of their identity now. I kind of ignore it. You don't really see it once it's on. You really have to pay attention to see it. But it is a decent, deep engraving. Just know that. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to continue this mini-series among other videos that I like to make on music and photography. But I've got 3 more to go, so stick around. I'm gonna review and show you an homage to a GMT as well as a Bell & Ross and something like a hybrid, Universal Geneve, Omega Speedmaster, and Daytona. Give you that vibes. Very close to this, but a little bit more authentic in the vintage era, the nod to the history. And of course, later on, we'll do some photography. I do want to combine my love for photography with this, so I will do a third know-how, easy macro picture, easy macro photography, product photography tutorial, as simple as possible. I know there's a lot out there and it can get really complicated, but I have a very straightforward approach. I'm not saying it's the best approach or the most professional, but I think you get decent shots. And for that gram, I think you would appreciate it. So stick around, that's coming out soon as well. Thank you for watching.